We have risen from the ashes to school the masses. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this very special edition of the Scholars of Wrestling Show, the ugly light-up Christmas sweater edition for the Christmas holiday season. I'm your man behind the microphone, Scholar Jeff. To my right is Scholar Tarek. How's it going tonight, sir?
All is jolly, good sir. Very jolly. I'm in a holly jolly mood.
And are you in a holly jolly mood? Brian Two Belts, the reigning, defending, undisputed Scholars of Wrestling champion and Scholars of Wrestling party champion, Scholar Brian. Are you holly and jolly?
I am. Basically, because of what you just said. I am the current, reigning, defending, undisputed Scholars of Wrestling heavyweight champion, and let me add on the little dog pile over here, the reigning, defending, undisputed Scholars of Wrestling party champion. Now, I understand a certain pay-per-view is coming up where it is very likely that both of those things will no longer be true. So, prepare yourselves. For the next 4 weeks, I'm going to be completely obnoxious about holding these two titles.
And I wouldn't know. I don't know what you're talking about. I, for one, don't know anything about being loud and obnoxious at all.
I certainly know what it's like to be loud and obnoxious when holding one of those belts. But trust me, when you were doing that, when you were doing your introduction, Brian, you saw me basically like, I know what he's doing because I've been there. I'm letting him have it because the man deserves it. Did you see how he reacted though?
Yep.
How he was taking it. What did I tell you? Like I said, just keep going. It's just a matter of time before
It's okay because I understand.
Do you know?
Okay. You need a first ever in your column. Okay? You don't have one. It's okay. It's okay for you to make those motions because I understand. I understand completely. However, I gollumed well for this last pay-per-view. And I'm going to keep golluming until I can gollum no longer.
Brian.
Which is...
Why do you have to give him a hope about him wanting to be a first ever at something? There is no more first ever of something.
I know. I'm that dick. Don't you understand?
But the thing is, I'm able to catch it. He didn't.
But
he was just like, you know what? Yes, you're absolutely right. I
Yeah.
will be first ever something. Oh, wait.
Well, you know what? There are still many chapters of the Scholars of Wrestling story that have yet to be written, and who knows? The possibility still exists, and not for nothing. Being the first ever doesn't matter nearly as much as the last ever.
Well, you know what? There's a first ever that you both are still able to go for. Be the first one to join up that same level as Undisputed Scholar with me, the Undisputed Scholar Tarek.
Well, all
now,
arrogance aside.
explain to the people, Undisputed Scholar.
For the Undisputed Scholar Oh, wow. Really? I'm actually excited about this.
What have you
To
done,
be-
Brian?
To be declared the Undisputed Scholar, you have to gain all the achievements that the Scholars of Wrestling entail. And what is that, do you ask? You have to win a Royal Rumble game. You have to win the Scholar in the Bank briefcase. You have to be Scholar of the Year. You have to win the Scholars of Wrestling Championship, and you have to win the Scholars of Wrestling Party Championship, which I have already done long past. This is a title that I have just held near and dear to my heart.
And once this award season ends, I will be one step closer
To joining me.
to joining because, let's put it in the bag right now, Scholar of the Year.
Trust me, we knew you were Scholar of the Year like 2 pay-per-views ago, so
So
that's perfectly fine.
this Royal Rumble It's big.
It's definitely a big step for you. And if you actually, I will declare this right now, on the one episode before the final episode of the Scholars of Wrestling of the year, the Schollies next week. Schollies. If you get that Royal Rumble win, the next event, the next show, we will finally do. And it's not because I'm wearing Hulk Hogan and you're wearing Macho Man Randy Savage. I am going to give you the Mega Powers handshake for the Undisputed Scholars.
Works for me.
Hey, you heard it here. A gentleman's agreement. There we have it. But before we get any further, we have a lot more to talk about and a lot more to celebrate. Celebrate!
Celebrate good times. Come on.
Yes, we have a lot more to celebrate in the world of professional wrestling and beyond. So let's talk about it all and more in a little segment we like to call a Backstage News.
Indeed, we shall go ahead and peek behind that curtain once again to check in on a little
Backstage news. Holiday moo.
Holiday moo?
Holiday moo.
Holiday moo. We are all cows now.
I'm not gonna say it
Please
because
don't.
I'm not a cow.
Please don't.
Then say it the way it's meant to be said. Holiday meh.
He knows for a fact I've been a cow already. I don't need to moo anymore.
Oh yeah, this is true.
Remember?
Yeah.
Back in high school years. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he knows what I'm talking about.
You were indeed a cow.
I was.
But anyway.
No, I was a bull.
A bull who goes moo.
Anyway.
Only a small group of people will actually get that reference.
It's okay. It's not your. For the rest of you, it's not yours to get. Don't worry about it. Elsewhere, though, we have some good news to talk about in the world of professional wrestling and backstage news. Starting with our boy, Aaron Stevens, becoming the new NWA National Champion. Aaron Stevens,
Well,
and
this
subsequently cutting a massively wonderful promo after Into the Fire.
This is a
Wonderful.
man who starts the study of karate and is a black belt in 3 weeks. Do we expect anything less from this man?
Only the foolish would expect anything of the sort.
Instead of our boy, should we just call him our patriarch?
Our patriarch, yeah,
The patron saint of the Scholars
the
of
patron
Wrestling.
saint of the Scholars of Wrestling.
Without him, there would be no Scholars of Wrestling.
No longer Damian Sandow, but Aaron Stevens, your new NWA National Champion. And
how
3-week
wonderful
black
it is.
belt. Going for belts and belts and belts.
If you haven't seen the promo they cut on this past week on NWA Power, you are missing out on a very special treat. It is
He is
Aaron-
a very special
it was-
treat.
It is Aaron Stevens at some of his better than he's been in quite a while, and it's an absolute treat.
And
He's
how
a perfect fit for NWA, and it shows it right there.
and how do we feel about Marty Scurll going to NWA?
Surprising, I was expecting him to join up with the rest of his boys in Elite. Thank you at AEW, but maybe he still could.
Apparently, according to Cody Rhodes, he's testing the waters. So there's a chance that he only signed a real short-term deal for maybe a couple months, maybe 6 months or whatever in NWA, and then he'll go from there. But he's basically coming right in and going for the NWA title. So it's like, hey,
Let's go for it.
why
Would be
not?
Interesting.
Why not? It was definitely a shock. But
It absolutely was.
and NWA had a good show for their first pay-per-view, and why not have a nice little surprise over there at the end?
Is that hat getting to you, fool? I saw that.
Yeah, it's a little. These things are a little itchy, but you know what? It's Christmas. It's festive. I don't care if I get smacked with balls in the face. I'm all good.
And the last little bit of free agent news that just dropped before we started doing this podcast. Killer Cross released from Impact Wrestling yesterday. He's been trying to get this release for about a year now. They finally gave it to him, and within 24 hours, I'm seeing things posted up on Twitter about him joining MLW. Out of nowhere, you thought he would either go to NXT to be with his girlfriend Scarlett Bordeaux, or go to AEW and feud with Jon Moxley, because they did that over the independent circuit while Moxley wasn't on TV for AEW. So it's pretty shocking to me that he went for the I don't know if it's third string or fourth string at this point, independent, because ROH is falling off big time. So
Yeah, I hope they bounce back, but otherwise, I don't think anybody expected that Ring of Honor.
yeah, but that's another shocker. So it's like it's a very, as we stated, it's a very exciting and very unpredictable time in wrestling as a whole, because there's a lot more options than there used to be.
There most certainly is.
It is.
It is.
That's not a bad thing.
Thing.
That's
a
good thing.
Because just from that alone, I'm interested in watching MLW now.
And I was already interested in MLW just because, as of maybe a month ago, that's just when I keep seeing MLW. That's when last time I checked in. MJF is still supposedly a mainstay on their show.
Yep.
So, hey, even more good wrestling to watch. Now, before we proceed to our coverage of the week that was in WWE TLC, anyone who has been following AEW lately knows that Chris Jericho has been producing his own custom line of sparkling white wine, a little bit of the bubbly. And if you've been paying attention to Twitter and Chris Jericho's tweets, a little bit of the bubbly is officially shipping. We're getting it now. I got my bottles.
All right,
We're ready to go.
let's do a pose, Brian. Get in.
Here's something for the Twitter machine.
Get in the shot. There we go. Okay,
All right,
there we go. That's a screenshot. We'll tag Jericho in. Hopefully he'll join in the retweet and actually acknowledge the Scholars of Wrestling existence.
Yes, we got our copy of a little bit of the bubbly.
One of over 15,000 sold.
And 2 of them are ours, and we're going to be sampling it during our coverage of the Royal Rumble. What do you say? Maybe a taste test at Royal Rumble time?
Absolutely.
Of course.
Boom. There we go. I know I like sparkling wine. I'm not sure how much you guys drink it. But...
So is that second bottle just basically for display, or are you actually going to open that one too?
Oh, no, I'm going to drink that sucker.
All right. He's gonna drink that sucker right out of the bottle.
Drink it down.
No, I didn't say that.
He's gonna drink it right out of the bottle.
It shall be saved for another special occasion, and another bottle will be saved for.
It will be
Royal
saved
Rumble time.
for WrestleMania.
It'll be saved.
Well, I'll be
Bubbly
shocked
in my
if it
belly.
lasts that long.
Bubbly in my belly.
Hey, if the bubbly is as good as it claims to be, then I would be out. I really do not think it will last until WrestleMania time. That would require an immense amount of willpower. But even so, AEW has been delivering, although, like we were talking about off the air before we start recording, NXT has really overtaken them with the recent title win of Rhea Ripley.
I'm not going to say that they've overtaken them. They did really well this week with an episode that was basically that let's call it what it is. It's the last takeover of the year on national TV.
I will agree.
So-
I will agree to that, and I will even go more. It's more than just Rhea Ripley winning the NXT Women's title. Through the entire show in a whole was amazing.
Yeah,
From the opening match of Finn Balor and Adam Cole, baby, for the NXT title.
The return of Johnny Gargano.
Return of Johnny Gargano. Killian Dane versus Damian Priest was awesome.
Even Cameron Briggs versus Kushida.
Because
that was awesome.
I wasn't expecting anything. I
and
was expecting
that-
a good match, but that just blew me away.
And that feud makes me happy because it's legit a feud. The dude stole his hat. That's the feud. I'm like, that's simple.
You know what?
That's
Simple but effective.
It's like that's my problem with what they're doing over at AEW right now. There's no such thing in this build up to the next pay-per-view that's simple but effective at this point. Okay, the closest is Jericho Moxley. Everything else, that whole Dark Order thing at the end of this week's show. Okay, first of all, in the spot that it was in, okay, if say Hangman Page had finished off his heel turn and joined the Dark Order, that would be a main event slot, big deal type thing. Who did they get to join the Dark Order? The two jobbers that Jon Moxley killed the week before. That's who they got to join.
I will say, I like the idea of the Dark Order, but the only real problem is, it's not like for this particular brand. It's not the only one going.
Yeah, there's three of them.
Yeah, there's three, and one of them is Brandy Rhodes, who, in my opinion,
does not need a microphone ever.
I'm sorry. I've already made it clear that I'm not a Brandy Rhodes fan, but she's actually reaching that point. She's actually reaching Bella Twins level of hatred for me.
She's reaching
She is not entertaining at all, in my opinion.
She's reaching my get off my TV levels. And like, the problem is she's a big part of every episode.
Mm-hmm. And like I said, she in the original discussion, she's basically taking the intrigue that the Dark Order are bringing with what she's doing with Nia Jax and who else is, and I don't know who that.
You mean Karma? Don't put Nia Jax on me.
Honestly, the weirdest thing was I actually thought I said Awesome Kong.
I believe it.
I was actually going for Awesome Kong. I don't even know how Nia Jax actually popped. Probably just because I heard that she's been in the Performance Center getting ready for a return, which is probably going to be at the Rumble.
Yeah, and
so
she's been talking.
She's fresh in my mind, but I was when I was thinking my original comment, I'm thinking Awesome Kong. So I don't even know. I'm surprised that Nia Jax came out, but but with Awesome Karma, that's what I'm going to call her now.
Yeah.
And who's the other one that
Aranda?
Just the person who they got from the audience to basically straight edge society.
Who's got a good look, but until she's in the ring, I don't give a shit.
But it's not. It's just the whole point of she's basically taking her own version of the Dark Order game and is basically taking any intrigue away.
And then you've got the Butcher and the Blade, who at least as it comes to wrestling, okay, I'm like, cool, that match was great. Mm-hmm. I'll put it this way, okay, both shows were awesome on the wrestling side, but when you get down to the angles. And it's basically I'm opening my mouth and saying the same words that Alvarez and Meltzer said. That the wrestling on both shows was amazing. If you just put wrestling, if both shows were just straight wrestling, there was no winner. There was no complete winner here. But NXT came out on top. Because the angles on AEW were so bad that it actually took me out of the AEW episode.
So you got anything to add, Fool?
I like the Butcher because he is basically a tatted up version of Teddy Roosevelt. I like it.
I'll go with that.
That's all I got.
I will say, in response to the to your Alvarez Meltzer comment, like, I do agree with what they said, but I don't. But I will say that Meltzer did kind of, like, when he said that AEW is at a tipping point, I will say he's kind of pushing it there. But I'm not, like, he was
There
saying
was
they're not in,
yeah.
like, Nitro
No.
rank, but they are, like, at a point where it's like, at least he was saying that they're at a WCW point where it's kind of like at that tipping point. I won't say they go that far, but
They do need
They do.
to.
there are some things that AEW needs to work on.
Yeah,
but
they
it's
need to
like,
pivot.
But it's a brand new product, and they're keeping their head high out of the water. So,
Yeah.
There's gonna be ups
yeah.
and downs, and this one was a down, but it's not like, oh, AEW's in trouble. No, not at all.
And let's face it, okay, with the lineup that NXT had going in, okay, NXT was going to win this week hands down no matter what you did. So they were basically airing a takeover special against a regular AEW Dynamite episode.
Dynamite kick.
So
AEW Dynamite Kick.
so there was no way that AEW was going to come out on top here. But they need to work on differentiating their teams, their stables, and I'll say this: the Elite needs to start coming out on top more, because the casuals, the casuals don't really know who these guys are. They're the owners of the company, and I like that they're putting a lot of guys over, but in order for it to mean anything, okay, they got to get some wins too. Mm-hmm. They got to get some good wins.
They got to pull a little bit of the Jeff Jarrett.
Yeah,
A little bit.
A little bit. You don't need to don't go full Jeff Jarrett. You never go full Jeff Jarrett.
No, absolutely not.
But a little bit of
Yes, that's a thing.
A little bit of Jeff Jarrett, a little bit of
I
Kevin Nash every now and then.
Does a body good.
Does a body good and gets a lot more people over than you think.
Not a full. Hogan,
Never go
Hogan
full.
Nash.
Never go full Hogan. Never go full Nash. Never go full Jarrett. But a little bit every now and then helps get more people over than you think.
Absolutely. But elsewhere in the wrestling world, we would be remiss if we didn't cover WWE TLC 2019, the last pay-per-view of WWE's schedule. And I must confess, I have, because of my random holiday doings and comings and goings, I was not able to catch the first part of this show.
Oh, you missed.
So you weren't able to catch the good part,
Yeah,
is what you're
honestly,
saying.
the first three matches.
Yes, unfortunately, so I'm going to need your assistance, gentlemen, in covering the rest of the show.
In all honesty, the only real matches that were actually worth talking about in high praise were the first three matches, which is including the pre-show with Humberto Carrillo and Andrade. All those first three matches were absolutely amazing. New Day and Revival, they had the up because it was the ladder match, and all four guys knew exactly what to do with the ladder match. Especially the Revival, like Big E and Kofi were really. I really gotta change. I can't say what I'll just say. They're the spot guys for this one. The Revival's advantage in that match was because they're such good tag team technicians, they were able to use the weapons in a way that was very creative, like them adapting to the match.
They didn't do the huge spots because that's not who they are as a tag team. Like the biggest spot that they had was Dash.
I think it was Dash, yes.
Dash doing the splash off the top rope from onto Big E through a ladder. That was like the biggest like spot, but the match itself was brutal. One of my favorite spots was Kofi avoiding trying to avoid the ladders and do his little drop kick. And do his drop. You know how he would jump in to avoid, and then just jump up and do a little drop kick into the ladder, normally taking out the entire team. What actually happened was he went to do that. The Revival lifted up the ladder. He got caught underneath, and they just slammed it down on it. They slammed the ladder down on his chest like 10 times. So
brother.
it was very innovative in a brutal way. Like it was. I can honestly say it's one of the best ladder matches I've ever seen. Yeah,
But yeah, moving on to that. There's nothing really more else I can add to that.
That Aleister Black versus Buddy Murphy was the match of
This
the night.
I saw you guys exploding on Twitter.
Yeah,
I don't know.
This-
I think
Wow.
everyone who saw it exploded on Twitter.
This-
This match was awesome.
This
I loved
was
the hell out of
This was a fight. This was something that I would expect out of the UFC. Like even the end, okay? It was one of those things where Buddy Murphy had been beating up on him, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere,
Black Mass.
Black Mass knocked him out. 1, 2, 3. It's like this wasn't one of those John Cena, Roman Reigns type things where it's like he's getting beaten up for 20 minutes, he hits a Superman punch and a spear, and it's over. This is one of those where you could actually legit believe it because it's a kick to the jaw, and it's treated like a MMA match.
I'll
where
even
it's-
go. I'll go. I won't go like MMA. That this was a takeover match. That's the best way to
You
explain
know what? You're
this.
right.
This
That I
ma-
can see.
This was a takeover match. The only thing it needed was an NXT crowd.
That the reason I went MMA style was because of the finish. It was an out of nowhere kick when Buddy Murphy had been dominating. Buddy Murphy had been dominating at the end, was going for the win, and all of a sudden, Black Mass out of nowhere, he's knocked the fuck out. So and if they do that, if that's the way that Aleister Black wins from now on, I don't consider it a Cena or a Roman Reigns type victory because it's legit like a boxing MMA thing where it can come out of nowhere and it's a knockout finish.
All right, I'm just gonna kind of put TLC on hold on this one because it's because of Aleister Black and Buddy Murphy. That one thing, I'm gonna just quickly talk about one factor on Raw because that really pissed me off.
The gauntlet match.
Which,
I know
yes,
where you're going.
Yes, that's exactly you're exactly right. Raw in a whole wasn't actually that bad of a show.
To you.
Yeah, sure. Okay. But the only black spot for me was the gauntlet match for the number one contendership for the United States title. And in my honest opinion, when I first was watching Raw, I didn't see the card, like the card of the lineup.
They hadn't even announced that yet. They announced it
Oh,
during
really?
the show.
So I didn't miss it. They just didn't.
They didn't
just
announce
have it.
anything.
Okay. Here's the thing. Now knowing that, when they first said it's a gauntlet match, and the first two contestants were R-Truth and Kira Tozawa. At first, I'm just like,
Why?
so is this so? And even when they did the announcement of the match, like this is a gauntlet match, and they didn't even say it was for the number one contender for the U.S. title. It took the commentators to say it. So I'm just like, at first when the guys are coming out, I'm like, why? What is this for? And then they talk about this being number one contender for the United States Championship. So and then I'm looking and I'm like, okay, the first three, R-Truth, Akira Tozawa, Ricochet, and then Matt Hardy comes out. And I'm just thinking, okay, this is for the number one contendership for the United States title, right?
There's
you
four guys who have no business being in that match.
I have R-Truth, Akira Tozawa, and Matt Hardy? Who's the fourth?
I don't even think the way that Ricochet's been being booked the last couple months. I don't know why he's in the match either.
I only put him in because he's an up and coming star that actually needs to be put in this. So for me, I would have replaced, even though Matt Hardy got the biggest pop of the men in that match,
and was actually I believe in the best section of that match.
in my personal opinion, the people who should have been in this match,
Black and Murphy needed to be in there.
I'll even go Black, Murphy, and Drew McIntyre.
Yes.
And at that point, that would actually be a gauntlet match worth actually getting the crowd into it, and it would be a completely different storytelling. And then there's the problem that happened at the end where it just abruptly ends.
They did announce on WWE.com the day after that apparently that counted as an Andrade knockout win. I don't know.
Well, I didn't see that, but it doesn't even matter.
It doesn't,
because next week the United States Championship match is going to Seth Rollins versus Rey Mysterio, and because it was already recorded, I'm just going to call it right now. I'm going to call a spoiler alert right now. So if you don't want to listen to it, skip ahead a little bit. The match ends. Match ends in a no contest.
Because you can't have Mysterio lose and you can't have Rollins lose.
So, it all leads up to the possibility of, I guess this is Samoa Joe actually coming back to being an active member of the roster.
I hope it is. I sincerely hope it is, especially in this format.
So when I look back to this past week, it makes the United States title gauntlet match even more worthless.
Because this is why I said what I said about my feelings on Raw. Okay? The wrestling outside of that match was good. I won't lie. But those two segments, the Seth Rollins bit and the gauntlet match, took up an entire hour of the show. Okay? And knowing what I now know, okay, that hour is useless. So it does, for me, as a viewer, for me, maybe not you two, but for me, it ruins my enjoyment of the show knowing that an hour of a 3-hour program is completely useless and did nothing to further any. You furthered the Andrade Humberto Carrillo feud. Ooh. But
and for me personally, I know the fact that Brock Lesnar's gone, so the WWE Championship is off Raw for a good long while, for the rest of the year. But do we really need to basically sacrifice the mid-card guys just so Rey Mysterio can be in the main event spot where we know the title's not going to be up for grabs? Like, I'm right now, just like as I did last week, I'm pulling my own little fantasy booking, or like how I would redo it, and have, if they want to have Rey Mysterio in this Seth Rollins feud, first have this gauntlet match with actual contenders who actually have winning records. Drew McIntyre, even though he did lose Buddy Murphy, like beforehand, building up to the match, he had a winning streak. Aleister Black, Ricochet, just because he's a name, and just throw Humberto Carrillo because he had a winning streak against Andrade, and Andrade could just take him out.
You can do the same thing. You can do the same thing, but have McIntyre or Murphy win. Have
McIntyre or Murphy win, or even if anything, Aleister Black. Have any of them win, and then the next week have the United States Championship with the winner, and have Seth Rollins attack Rey Mysterio, then first costing him the United States title and taking down Mysterio. Have Rollins' only appearance be that promo, And just, he doesn't specify. He's just like, I'll just let you know, the next time you see me, I'm going to say ahead of time, I'm sorry. And then that's the last you see of him. Because you're not going to see Kevin Owens because he's off TV to sell the attack last week. Fair. But it's just, once again, we're having Seth Rollins and Rey Mysterio for the United States title, which now will lead to nothing and will possibly lead to just a 6-man tag with
Owens, Rey,
and Samoa Joe versus AOP and Seth Rollins. Now taking the United States champion away from the other guys who now have completely nothing to do. So, like when I said have them cost Rey the belt, so now the United States Championship can go to the mid-card guys. Give them something to go for. AJ Styles and Randy Orton, they're perfectly fine, and now they have the OC and the Viking War Raider experience. That's a storyline going on separate from anything. They don't need anything. If anything, they have the Raw Tag Team Championship, which now the OC, who are the only team to beat the Viking Raiders twice, they actually have a story to build with both of those guys. So, or the teams with both of all 6 guys.
And because of this, from TLC, we had a double count out via a KFC,
and there's two
via KFC table spots like this.
There's 2 issues here. There's no reason this needed to be a mystery opponent match. This could have been announced beforehand. With a mystery opponent match, okay, you expect a surprise. You expect a surprise team that you wouldn't have thought at all. You could have announced the OC versus the Viking Raiders, because this, as much as I like the OC, this is a letdown of a mystery team. Second of all, this was not a match for the tag team titles. This was a commercial for KFC. That's all this was.
That's what killed. This is the match that actually started killing the show.
This was the beginning of the downfall.
And I'm not blaming the guy. I'm not blaming the teams, because for what they were doing in the match, it was fine. It was a typical Vince McMahon booking a tag team match.
Yeah,
and yes, they actually had a better match on Raw. Like, wow, their match on Raw was actually really good.
Because they actually let them go.
2 commercials. It was a very good tag match on Raw. But you said it, Brian. For what they did for TLC, it was a commercial for KFC, which it's probably something similar to when The Miz and Dolph Ziggler both dressed up as the Colonel.
Yeah. So this was.
Oh, wait, no, Miz was the chicken, just a regular chicken, and Dolph Ziggler was the Colonel.
This was a dud of a mystery opponent match, and it was a match only done so that someone could go through the KFC table.
And
now,
meanwhile,
points,
Popeye's still better.
Points to that dude who
took the chicken.
Points to the dude who didn't give a shit about anything that was going around him. Dudes are getting thrown through the KFC table, and he's just sitting there with the bucket eating the chicken. I'm like, points to that dude. That
priorities. Priorities.
Yeah.
I will disagree with you on one thing. I actually don't mind the open challenge, because it's kind of what they're doing with the Viking War Raider experience that they did with Braun Strowman. They are sick of just getting local talent squash matches. Now there's like, okay, so now we're sick of getting these guys, having the company get these guys. We're issuing an open challenge to actually people who matter.
But here's the deal, okay? They've faced the OC 6 times in the last 4 months, okay? They are not the team that should be that if you're gonna have this match, okay, open challenge, have somebody else accept. The OC versus the Viking Raiders is a feud that's been going on for 4 months. You should announce that and actually have. You should have the match on Raw should have been the match on the pay-per-view.
I
You can
will-
have the KFC commercial on Raw.
I will agree with you. They should have done the open challenge thing a lot, if anything, earlier. Because like I said, I like the idea, but having just the only other team being the Street Profits, understandable. If anything, like have B Team or Hawkins and Ryder to be the first couple of teams that answer the open challenge, and then give a legit team. Yeah, that's what I said, a legit tag team with the Street Profits. Sorry, Hawkins and Ryder and B Team, especially for Sit Charlie, who's a big fan of the B Team, Bo.
Yeah, this is who we're letting sit at our table. Okay, that's it.
Hey, next week is his last week of being a sit. Let that sink in.
We will expand further outward.
Yeah, I will agree, but like they should have been doing it a lot sooner than just continuing the local talents and then one open challenge. But with this, like I said, I do like the fact that they're the first ones that are actually building a story to it, building a story that comes with the open challenge. Mm-hmm. I will agree, it should have been sooner that they were actually calling people out there like, we're sick of the locals, bring on some real challengers. Mm-hmm. I will agree with you on that.
Yeah, because
But
my thing is
I won't mind with it. It's just
my
lost
thing
me at the end.
Yeah, my thing legit is that the Viking Raiders and the OC have been basically feuding since the OC became the best tag team in the world. They've been fighting each other every week, on and off. So it's like they answer the open challenge. The OC this didn't need to be an open challenge. It should have just been. It would have actually worked better for me if they were just like, okay, OC versus the Viking Raiders for the tag team titles because they've been fighting in non-title matches since the beginning, since that best tag team in the world thing. So it's like just have the match. Just have the match. Announce the match as the OC versus the Viking Raiders. Just have the feud. You already started the feud with Randy and AJ and the OC. So it's like you're ready made. Here, this didn't need to be an open challenge. This should have been just announced for the pay-per-view.
To each his own, man. But hey, there's a light at the end of there's a light coming for you, Brian. The Usos have been cleared of their DUI charges,
And they'll probably go to SmackDown.
Oh no, I think they're going to be one of the next people to fight the Viking War Raider experience.
I wouldn't be surprised if the
That
OC
would be
win the tag team
tremendous.
titles. The way that they're going, is the way that this feud is going. Because the Viking Raiders won 4 times in a row, so why not have them?
Speaking of feuds where you win multiple times in a row, elsewhere on this show we also had King Corbin defeating Roman Reigns.
Why was this a TLC match? This should have just been. They should have just called it a no holds barred match.
Honestly, I
and
would have
been done
preferred.
with it.
I would have preferred the dog collar match that was the rumored match
Yeah.
that they were going to have. This was pointless.
If this was a no, yeah, and we now know what it takes for people to beat Roman Reigns, or at least
Superior numbers.
For King Corbin to beat Roman Reigns, he needs Dolph Ziggler, the Revival, and 5,000 security guards. That's it.
Hey, whatever works.
That's how it. My problem with this is that Roman Reigns should have beat the shit out of him in about 5 minutes, and this went about 25 minutes too long.
Hey, my big problem with this is that now the Revival are full on with Baron Corbin. I don't want the Revival being underlings to Baron Corbin.
I don't want the Revival being underlings at all, but apparently that's all they're
Hey,
good for.
I would have accepted
for
FTRKO.
Randy Orton.
FTRKO.
For Randy Orton, yes.
Yes,
But-
that's the only way.
but-
Because he wouldn't have looked at them as underlings, but as equals.
yeah, but
This
What
is
is
now
it,
King
since-
Corbin's court.
since 2 years ago, all the Revival have been are underlings and people who lose the tag team titles in a month.
And get itchy things in their tights.
Yes.
Yeah, I won't ever let that go.
Why
Yeah.
did you?
But and it's also that this was not the last time we would see King Corbin and Roman Reigns this night.
Yeah, I don't.
So,
just the thought of it. No,
It's just
I'm not looking. That's the one thing
No.
I'm not looking forward to.
So
SmackDown
we had
tomorrow.
So we had 40 minutes of this, and then just fighting in the back and out on the stage throughout the rest of the show. I'm like, dude,
That was
40
too much.
minutes isn't enough. 40 minutes of this bullshit isn't enough.
Meanwhile, moving on, we got, and this is around the time when I started tuning into the show, we got Bray Wyatt defeating The Miz in
5 minutes.
5 minutes.
No,
I'll put
I
This-
thought this
the
was
entrance.
fine.
The entrance
that's it.
is amazing. That was glorious. And just after that, it's just woof.
Woof.
The match itself was
It wasn't even like the
Ay.
the Miz.
party. Brian got too excited. That's
Party
why
foul.
he walked out. He got a party foul. Okay, with him cleaning up his mess. Gross. What I have to say about this, you are absolutely right, Brian. Bray Wyatt came out to the Firefly Funhouse theme, which is something I've wanted him to come out with. Once they officially announced that it was going to be Firefly Funhouse Bray
moving my bubbly.
versus the Miz, I'm like, man, better come out to the extended theme of Firefly Funhouse. I think I even said that on the prediction show last week.
Yes, it was one of those things where it just writes itself, more or less.
But the only thing that can be said about this match is that it wasn't a match. It was an angle. It's just The Miz
and that was fine.
The Miz trying his hardest to actually look like a serious threat and try like as an angry dad. And
But
all
here's
it
the
is-
problem.
No.
Okay.
All it is, and it fails on that on miserable levels because it doesn't do anything except Bray Wyatt's enjoying the pain, and it was just 5 minutes of Miz trying to do damage to Bray Wyatt, and it just immediately ends with two Sister Abigails, one on the outside and one on the inside. So just, I'm not going to use the Brian Alvarez word, but it made, because I hate that word so much, for wrestling terms, but it does make The Miz look like a complete and total waste of time. And it just leaves the whole match was just a waste of time. And the only real positive thing that come out of it was what happened afterwards, which first we see the Fiend.
Daniel Bryan's back.
No, first we see the Fiend. So just like, okay, I am listening to what you're saying, Master Fiend. He brings out the giant mallet, and then the return of the Yes American Dragon.
Yeah, don't. That was not Daniel Bryan. That was Bryan Danielson, and that's great. Going
American
back to the
Yeskin.
going back to the match. My problem was, okay, The Miz is an angry dad. Okay, he hid his family because Bray Wyatt was being a creeper, the creepiest kind of creeper. Now,
He gave
Okay.
his kids toys.
first of all, the Miz's offense doesn't work for an angry dad. Second-
Some people said it best, the soft style.
Yeah. Secondly, okay, no matter what, his family's in hiding. He's going into a match with the Fiend. Got to do the whole entrance, complete with smiles and points to the crowd and all that. Okay? In this case, I need a serious angry Miz the whole time, actually trying to do strong moves, because it just didn't work. I'm like, why is Bray taking this? Why is...
Because he can.
It doesn't mean, okay, he's Mr. Rogers Bray, but he's getting hit with all this weak shit.
and he's laughing it off.
But
That's the, like I said, it's
No.
an angle. Miz is trying to do the angry dad and trying to beat the ever-loving shit out of Bray Wyatt. And all Bray Wyatt can do is just laugh it off.
and for me, for the second time in this program, because we all know that Bray Wyatt, Seth Rollins, Hell in a Cell match, we don't go back and talk about that. But this is the second thing about Bray Wyatt since he became the Fiend that just didn't work for me. Doesn't matter, doesn't matter if it was an angle, doesn't matter if it was a match. Bray Wyatt versus The Miz, the actual showdown, is the second thing that of the Fiend's Bray Wyatt that doesn't work for me. However, once we get to the Fiend Bryan Danielson stuff, that turned this whole thing around for me, and this is big. This is huge, and it actually, and it's the first time when I've actually thought, like, this guy could beat the Fiend. Like, do I think it's gonna happen? No, but it's actually the first time that the thought's been put in my head that it could happen. Like, never before has it been in my head that the Fiend would not come out on top of this feud. But now we're here. American Dragon Bryan Danielson came out and beat the shit out of Bray Wyatt, whether it was the Fiend or not. And now the thought's put in my head that, hey, this could happen.
Mm-hmm. I'll just final say on this to go with what you said, Brian, with how you comparing this to the Seth Rollins debacle for Hell in a Cell. My problem with what they've been doing with Bray Wyatt and the Fiend is that they're letting him take too much of his opponent's offense. I will agree on that. They did it with Seth Rollins, and they somewhat did it with Daniel Bryan the first time. I actually let this one slide because the way I looked at it, back to basically being an angle, is that he was letting the Miz take out his anger on him, and once he's like, okay, go ahead, let it out, haha, see, isn't this fun? All right, it's like once he actually pulled out the arm and he had to basically Mel Gibson back in. Mm-hmm. That was the point where it's just like, okay, I let you have it. Fun's over. Sister Abigail says, at that point, he's just like, all right, now I'm back to being serious. And that's when The Miz just basically fell to Bray Wyatt and just shows how unstoppable he really is.
I
let this one slide because one thing, because remember, Firefly Funhouse Bray wants to be everybody's friend. So he's just like, you know what, Miz? I let you feel like your family is completely threatened. I'll let you have these. It's kind of like, come on, give me the first. It's like, I will let it's
First
Cell.
one's free.
It's pretty much Dragon Ball Z Cell. I'm going to give the first one, but be careful. Once I want you to hit me as hard as you can. It's kind of that feeling.
But you better take me out because when I come back, you're done.
Like, yeah, you better let it all out. You better take me down because once I actually start getting serious, you're done. Mm-hmm. That's how I felt about it.
I will say this. Okay. I do like the storyline that I do like the builds that they're doing with the characters that he has long-term feuds with. Okay. Finn Balor. He takes him out in about 3 minutes, and he turns into Prince Devitt in NXT. Okay, Seth Rollins. He wins the title. He freaks him out so bad he needs to get AOP as his bodyguards, and turn on the fans and turn on everybody that turns heel. Yeah. Okay. Daniel Bryan, he takes him out, pulls him into the depths of hell. He comes back as American Dragon Bryan Danielson. Okay? He is taking everyone who he's facing and changing them in a fundamental way to bring out the best and the worst in them. And as a character, okay, that's all I can ask for. Now, okay, we all knew that The Miz was a filler feud, so there's gonna be no change there. So, but as of right now, the Fiend has done his job, and I'm happy that as of now, it seems like it's not gonna be Roman Reigns facing the Fiend at WrestleMania, because if it was, if it was, that build would have started here tonight. Okay, every person who has won the Royal Rumble and or has gone into a WrestleMania feud, okay, the build doesn't start in January at the Royal Rumble pay-per-view. It starts at either Survivor Series or TLC. That's why everyone was worried after Survivor Series, because Roman Reigns won the Survivor Series match. So it's like, okay, here comes the build for him going after Bray Wyatt. But then he loses to Baron Corbin at TLC.
And like
so
15 guys.
And 15 guys, but he still loses. So like that the build is stunted. So if he gets if he goes up against the Fiend at WrestleMania now, it doesn't feel earned. So I think they're going somewhere else.
And did you feel like Bobby Lashley earned his victory over Rusev? With all the build and craziness that happened there, did you believe that?
Oh, I believed it. I didn't want to.
That's why we all predicted it.
But
okay. All I'm going to say about this Bobby Lashley Rusev Lana stuff is that I'm surprised the crowd is getting so much into it. Whatever works.
It's because it's Rusev.
It's doubling down.
That's it.
Yeah.
If it was just Bobby Lashley and Lana, this would be getting booed out of the building every week. But it's Rusev.
Okay.
That's it. But
there's nothing else to say. Really.
But it's like it's a table match. Table matches are never good. They never are. It's a thing. They keep doing them, but they're never good.
Table matches are only used to get the heels over.
Yeah.
That's it.
So it's like
that's it. Let's move on. We don't need to talk about this anymore. Seriously, there's no need to talk about Bob.
This was
we put too much time into it as it is.
Then meanwhile, we're moving on to the main event of the evening. The Kabuki Warriors defeated Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair, but not before seriously concussing Kairi Sane.
Yeah.
So what exactly was the moment? Because there's video.
There are 3 different moments when it could have been. We don't know.
It's not the monitors, because they released because there was a fan video.
It might have been at that.
The monitors.
I believe it was I believe it was the suplex from Charlotte into the barricade.
I was actually thinking it's that too, because like I said, they showed it. They had a fan video. Monitors don't go anywhere near Kairi Sane's head.
I believe
that's
was
out the window.
I believe that it was the.
I think it was the.
Because if you watch that video, her head comes down hard.
And this match, if she was fully fine, this would have been a completely different match. But accidents happen.
Yeah.
There's unlike Charlie, which on Twitter, where he was attacking the match.
Well, I gotta say, okay, a lot of people were attacking the match because they didn't realize that Kairi Sane was legit hurt.
No, Charlie did it. Was attacking the match even afterwards, which you had to explain. It was like, well, now knowing the circumstances, there's no point to attack.
It's like the first 10 minutes were fine.
Was it 10? I thought it happened a lot sooner.
No, 5-10 minutes. Up until that point, it was fine. But then you noticed a drop off, and then you noticed Becky Lynch. I don't think Charlotte understood.
Oh, Charlotte had
or
no.
knew,
Yeah, she didn't
or
understand.
knew
She didn't know
because she was getting mad
Definitely not.
that Kyrie Sane wasn't doing. Like she realized it afterwards, and she put
And
up
she-
that nice
yeah.
Twitter.
Yeah.
So
at
it's
this
like,
part, she was probably thinking.
but
She was probably thinking
she
Brock
thought-
Lesnar, Hardcore
yeah.
Holly. It's like, oh, you're stiffing me.
yeah.
Well,
so
I'm gonna drop you on your head and break your neck.
So it's like I
boy.
I knew something was wrong, not because I was being told on Twitter, but I could see
Oh, yeah.
I could see Becky Lynch generaling around, just being like, okay, we need to do this because she's fucked up.
And
that's it.
you see Asuka drop her heel character to just check on Kairi Sane. And you see Kairi Sane is so upset because she knows she's not thinking clear. She's like, this is not good.
Yeah.
And I will agree with Vince McMahon. It's like, what? Because one thing, after finding out what happened, because they weren't there, neither him or Triple H were there for that show, and finding out what happened afterwards, you're just thinking, okay, why didn't the refs do something? Why wasn't anyone trying to actually stop the match? And,
and even if you didn't stop the match,
or just
okay, if
basically
you got,
put on pause
it
and
puts
work our way around it.
because you can take Kyrie Sane, you could do the same thing you did with Liv Morgan at Evolution. Okay, you can take her out of the view and tend to her as Asuka is put over as even a bigger badass by beating both Charlotte and Becky Lynch by herself to retain the tag team titles and keep that little storyline with Becky Lynch going.
I guess
But-
the Liv Morgan argument is kind of just like, well, they had more people in that match, so it's much more understandable to take her out to work their way around it. But I guess the whole idea with Asuka is not to make her look super strong, because remember, that's how they view the heels, not being the ones that are basically being the ones that being out to look strong. And because of the whole situation, the crowd, people are actually gaining sympathy, and you don't want that for your heels. So it kind of makes sense why they try to work around it, but it's like, this person is legit hurt. You have to do something.
So I'll put it to you this way. The last 15 minutes of this match were bad. They were.
Mm-hmm.
But knowing the circumstances now of why they were bad, okay, I can't shit on this match.
I can't either. And
Nor would I.
So it's like this is a match that I don't rate.
yeah, I'm
Because
taking it out too.
because it's one of those, like, if it was an actual match where there were no injuries, this probably would have been great. This probably at least good. I'm not gonna go great, but it would have been at least
main event.
it would have been passable. It would have been good. It would have been worthy of its main event status. But because of what happened, I cannot, in good conscience, give it a rating because.
But then and then Asuka comes out standing tall, and you're thinking, okay. And then they brought
Roman Reigns
out
and
the
Corbin.
battle royal again.
Now, admittedly,
or the fighting again.
Admittedly, that spot at the end with the spear into the group of people, that was a good spot. That was a spot they should have had in the match.
I'll give you that. It should have been
A
in
spear
the match,
to a spear to King Corbin onto Dolph Ziggler, the Revival, and all of those security guards would have been awesome.
I will agree with what everyone else says about that. It's like, it's once again, two TLCs in a row. Asuka gets a big win, and they completely brush her off.
Yeah.
First, last year with Ronda Rousey, and now this year with Roman Reigns and Baron Corbin, and I guess we'll just call it Corbin's Court.
And instead of being somewhat happy at the end of the paper, not even the fans.
Everyone.
Just it's one of those, instead of going out happy, all we're thinking about is, oh, okay, I know it's gonna happen on SmackDown now. Son of a bitch. That's it.
I'm just looking forward to Bray Wyatt and Daniel Bryan, or Bryan Danielson.
Yeah.
Daniel Bryanson.
Yeah,
Sure.
I'm right there with you. That there's so much more individual characters I'm following and I'm more interested in than to show themselves. And Bray Wyatt is absolutely part of that, regardless of what he's doing. But I'm sure that they know that Bray is worth money, and we are more than likely than not going to see some of the best that WWE can provide.
So for TLC, facial hair ratings.
For the first hour, including the pre-show, I will give this a peach fuzz. But I'll give this a peach fuzz because the first hour was so great. But the fall off was major. Like we had match of the year candidates in the first hour, but the drop off was so great after those first 3 matches that peach fuzz is as far as I'll go.
I will go classic OT on this one. It's what was there that was really, really good, that enough that overpowers all the mediocrity and troublesome things. So, yeah, not the best way to conclude a year, but certainly not the worst I've ever seen.
Not the best to conclude a decade.
Yeah, really.
But
This is the best you got to close out a decade? Boo.
I'm going to go classic goatee as well, pretty much repeating what you said, but it's going to be a very, very low class. It's going to be a classic goatee, like kind of similar to how my classic goatee is, like on the verge of peach fuzz. It's a peach fuzz goatee.
All right.
That's what we'll
somehow
call
it
it.
all makes sense.
We can't go full classic. We'll go peach fuzz goatee.
I'm guessing we have a consensus then.
But yeah, the first half was just completely amazing.
I can't even go half.
It was enough for me.
I can't even go half.
Well, to each his own.
It was 3.5 hours long. The pre-show match and the first 45 minutes of the pay-per-view were great. The 2.5 hours after that were.
And I'll give a positive point to the Bray Wyatt angle, Bray Wyatt, Miz, Daniel Bryan angle.
I give a point to the Bray Wyatt Bryan Danielson angle, the Bray Wyatt Daniel Bryan angle, and the entrance. The angle with Bray Wyatt and the Miz.
It was more character for me. It was how I saw it, and it worked for me character-wise.
So anyway, as the debate rages on, now is the time in the show where we turn it over to you, the wrestling community, our listening and viewing audiences. What do you think? What do you think of this show? What do you think of what's going to happen with TLC? How did the decade close out? We want to hear from you, so hit us up all across the internet. What's with the hand things?
Visuals. Kind of keep the visual going. It's like, what did you think of the decade?
Yes, contact us all across the internet. Join the conversation. Facebook, Twitter, but most importantly, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Twitter. Contact us on Twitter.
We do it through our phones. Why not?
Fair enough.
Make it happen. Join us on the Twitter machine, starting with at ScholarsOW for all the latest episode uploads. And, of course, you can check us out on our personal Twitter accounts. Fool, where can they reach you?
You can reach me at the Avataric.
Champ, where can they reach you?
You can reach Brian Two Belts at Atomic Beanpole.
And you can reach me at I'm Robbie Rage. Join the conversation or just play with my dingle balls. It's a good time had by all. We talk wrestling. We spread memes all over the place. It's great. It's everything the internet was meant to be. And with that, our Christmas episode of the Scholars of Wrestling for 2019 is coming to a close. But of course, next week, you know what that means.
It's the end. It's the final episode of 2019. It is the Scully Awards.
Oh yeah.
And I won't be here, so I won't be able to accept my Scully for Scholars of the Year in person.
Don't worry, Brian. I'll accept the award on your behalf.
No, that's okay.
I'll pass.
That's okay. I'll pass
It's okay.
on that.
I got you covered. I got you covered.
I will.
Oh,
put-
he's gonna accept it on your behalf. Oh,
I will pass it to you in due time. Never you mind. I won't bogart it for myself. Now will I? Yeah. Okay. Now.
Oh, that's very threatening.
Hey, never jingle a man's jingle balls.
Look at this man. I can't attack him on camera.
You can't go attacking his jingle balls.
Yes.
Oh, I'll attack his jingle balls.
Oh,
I can't
please
attack
don't.
him.
So yes, we play with our jingle balls around here because you know who we are already. We are the Scholars of Wrestling, and you have just been schooled. You're
welcome.
Have a Merry Christmas, and we'll see you for the
Were
end of
you
the year
about to
at the
say the
Scholars
jingle
event.
balls of wrestling?
The jingle
I
balls
heard
of
that.
wrestling.
I heard that. I heard that stutter.
Good night, everybody.